After Lewis Hamilton's sprint win and Oscar Piastri's race win back in China, the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix weekend is finally here with the new headlines, stories, and controversy. With also the first 2 practice sessions done and dusted, we do have a little idea how it will look on qualifying and race day. Reasons like this is why F1 is honestly one of my favorite sports. I got into F1, it's probably my 4th year watching, and it just never gets old, things can just change like that. Situations can just change like that, and that's why I'm just excited for this weekend. The biggest news of the headline was the dropping of Liam Lawson from Red Bull, and swapping it out with Yuki Tsunoda, who was a huge target. He's he was a huge target for Red Bull. He was a, why am I saying so many times? Yuki Tsunoda having linked to the Red Bull, and then also Liam Lawson, and there's Carlos Sainz that was not really an option but was considered. Daniel Ricciardo, who, has gone from the sport, but people are like bring him back, or Checo Perez, this whole controversy. But Liam Lawson was the final person to have the seat, and after 2 race weekends dropped, and that shocked a lot of people. It shocked me. Liam Lawson's dropping was always rumored, but I didn't actually think it would really happen after 2 race weekends. I say at least give him like 3 or 4, but 2 race weekends, Red Bull just had enough and dropped him, and Yuki Tsunoda came in and just see how he was doing in practice. He did finish FP1 here, with P6 and Max Verstappen P5, so I feel like that was a good sign for Yuki. Yuki Tsunoda has a lot of I don't want to say stress, but a lot of eyes watching him, saying, "Oh, Lawson's got dropped. If Yuki's not he's not gonna perform. He might just get what's gonna happen with Yuki." So it was nothing crazy with FP2, because after Duan's crash, we'll talk about it after. But Yuki Tsunoda was down just 1/10 off Max Verstappen, so. It's only free practice. Don't get me wrong. Pre-practice can mean nothing, but this shows good sign that Yuki's also competing in pace with Max at a state, I guess you want to say. With that, then also, this shows maybe Yuki could be closer to Max, better than other Max's teammates. Is Yuki gonna be that teammate finally that's gonna compete with Max? Sure, Checo, you can say Checo was up there with Max, but not really. Checo did win races. Checo's had podiums and all that. But before that, you had an Alex Albon, you had a Pierre Gasly, you had a Daniel Ricciardo. So is Yuki finally gonna take up the mantle and compete with Max? Sort of, if you want to say, I guess a Carlos or a Charles, or an Oscar in a Lando. Now, I do really like Yuki. I hated Yuki at first when he was in AlphaTauri. When he was teammates with Pierre Gasly. I really did not like Yuki, but he is, for me, a really talented driver, and it just shows that he's a huge fan. And we'll see here what France tossed. It's a crazy statement. You give Lawson 100 years, he still wouldn't be as fast as Yuki, which is honestly that's crazy thing to say. Don't get me wrong, you can 100% say Yuki, you prefer Yuki and all that, but saying all that about a driver that hasn't shown anything yet is crazy to say. But that's what the whole, I guess, Yuki situation want to say with that. If you want to talk about things people are surprised is Fernando Alonso. That's a huge thing that's going on here. What's gonna happen with Fernando? Is because as of right now, Lance Stroll is competing way better than the veteran rookie Fernando Alonso. Where's Stroll? Stroll has 8th place in the rankings, and Fernando Alonso is dead last. And he's not dead last, but what position is he in? Could have sworn he was dead last. He has points. Wait, no, it's Lance. I think I'm blind. Alex, Yuki, Pierre, Liam, Jack. I guess he's not shown. There's only shows 19 drivers. I want to see Fernando. Either way, Fernando hasn't got any points this year, and with Max Verstappen having linked with Aston Martin recently, he's always been linked. I guess for a year now, Mercedes, Aston Martin, huge $1 billion deal that's gonna happen. I do think Max could 100% go to Aston Martin, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. You know, I can definitely see Max leaving Red Bull after I guess the whole controversy that's happening over there. But yeah, let's talk about Jack Doohan's crash. And Jack Doohan's crash is just, it was a really bad crash. It was a massive crash. It was high speed crashing to just going into turn one. The Dior and people, I mean, not people are saying, but I guess it was what happened was the DRS was open, and he just forgot to press close on the wheel, and he braked too late, and then just crashed. I think Alpine stated that it was a mechanical issue, but you can see in the car that he forgot to press turn off DRS. You can't really see it on like the footage. You can't see the flat or I guess the back of the car with the DRS, but that's what happened. It was a really bad crash, 4 red flags, and that's just crazy to see. And that ended everyone's FP2, FP3 starting I believe in 7 hours. This recorded a couple hours before FP3 starting. So we'll see what happens with that. And I guess I can give my predictions of what I think is gonna happen. And the McLarens, the McLarens are the McLarens. They're the new Red Bull at the moment. They look amazing, and they have a really good, strong partnering duo. Lando Norris did say that McLaren are not first because of the car. They're in first place because of the two pairings that they have, and I couldn't agree more. At first, I thought I was a huge fan of Charles with Sainz. I thought Charles and Sainz had the strongest duo going into I guess last season, but when you look at Oscar and Lando, you can't doubt them. Oscar and Lando look amazing, and either one of them can 100% be world champion. It's a shame that Piastri, what happened to him in Australia, pretty much affected, I guess, affected everything that had for him. But we'll see what happens with that. And that, I was just going to my predictions. Who do I think is going to win? We haven't seen much. Just really FP1 was a 1-2 McLaren, I believe. It's going to be McLaren win. I would give it to Lando. I think Lando will win in Japan. The Mercedes look good, as I guess in the situation that they are. Kimi Antonelli just being a rookie and performing that the way he is right now. No one really expected it. If you want to look at these other rookie drivers, sure, out of all these rookies, he has the best car without a doubt. But he's 17, 18 years old. He's young. For me, I wasn't a fan of Jack Doohan. I never really was. I really liked Franco Colapinto, and I from F2 to in Williams, I just really loved what he was doing, and obviously you're not gonna drop Albon because he's been your project driver for Williams for a while now, and you're not gonna pass down a chance to get Carlos Sainz. So Franco had to be the odd man out, and I'm surprised honestly he didn't get to see. He was linked to Red Bull. He was also linked to Red Bull earlier with Liam Lawson, and he had a bad towards the end of the season. A lot of crashes. He looked really good, man, at the start. Really, really good. So I'm a huge fan of Franco. So maybe will he take Jack Doohan's seat? I can 100% see that happening if Jack Doohan is not performing. I mean, the whole Alpine, you can also say with Pierre Gasly not performing as well. Also, no, we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised with that. The Alpines is misperforming, the Ferraris, the Aston Martin. If you want to say Aston Martins, Haas are performing. Sauber, Sauber. You can I could really be disappointed with them because Sauber is Sauber. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. And for my predictions here, I'm gonna have Lando first. I really want to see a Ferrari win so bad. I think they really need it, and I think it could show. I think Ferrari can 100% win. It's just such a shame what happened to them in China, and Hamilton did win, a sprint. If it's not a full-on race, but don't get me. This just shows that Ferrari can 100% win. Um, so I'm gonna give it to Hamilton P3, Lando P1. Weird order how I'm doing it. Do I want to give Russell? Do I want to give George Russell? People are saying Yuki podium. I do not think Yuki's gonna get podium. I think, man, I don't know, honestly. I'm just like really a Kimi podium. Do you want to see a Kimi podium? Album's performing really good in that Williams too. So I'm gonna say, all right, Lando, Hamilton, and Kimi. Just out of the actually no, but I can't let Piastri go down that bad though. Uh, Lando, Oscar, and Kimi. Yeah, I think that's gonna be qualifying. I think who do I think is gonna get pole. I'm just looking at the list of drivers. I really don't know. I'll just give it to Lando. I think Lando pole position. I want to McLaren again with Kimi as my surprise podium guy. But yeah, it's pretty much, I guess, a little preview of what's been happening and my predictions. So hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.